since that day 100 years ago, when we were just two people, some handsome-looking barrels, and 2 billion people on the planet to take care of. Now we are nearly 9,000 people with over 8 billion people to take care of. But do you know what makes me even prouder? Not just the past 100 years, but the thought of what we can achieve together over the next 100 years.
A very, very pleasant evening to all our esteemed guests. I, Vishnu Srivastav, Key Account Manager for Global Strategic Accounts, welcome you all to Inspiria 2023. Diversey has been the powerhouse of unmatched innovation in cleaning and hygiene industry for over 100 years. In the last century, we have constantly developed, reinvented, questioned our solutions, which has not only helped the businesses, but has also set the norms for cleaning. Inspiria is an initiative by Diversey, where we bring together all the stalwarts of the industry to discuss and deliberate on the science of cleaning. Today, we have amongst us key stakeholders and thought leaders who have shaped the industry as we know it today. To take this event forward, let's hear it from our very own Mr. Kiran Rao.
Hi, good evening. 100 years, right? We saw. Not many organizations would come to your mind which would have crossed 100 years. And by the way, since the time you started from your home and reached here, India has created history, successful launch of Chandrayaan-3. And guess what? Sriharikota and Bangalore both use Diversey solutions. Moving on, we are Solenis now. You would have seen it in various social media. Solenis is a specialty chemical giant globally. They are mostly into water treatment chemicals. We are bigger now. We are at least 2.2 times of the revenue we were. We are double the size in India now, both in turnover and people. What does it mean for the cleaning part of our business? We are stronger together. Our commitment remains the same to create a safer, healthier India. Same brand, same service, but more value. So that's what we will bring in for you with this partnership. Together, we will be present in institutional business. That's the business that we represent. Consumer business, where various consumer products such as paper cups or tissue papers, the chemistry that's got into their manufacturing comes from Solenis. And of course, pool solutions, which maintains pools in your residential or hospitality complexes. Total put together, we are today present in 130 countries, 71 manufacturing locations, 15,000 people, 96,000 customers, which we want to be 1.25 lakhs by end of this year, and one team. So that's the power of one team we are talking about together. Whether you talk about a kid's experience in a school, or a person traveling through public infrastructure, or a person visiting a mall, or you talk about any asset in office, what do? You take care of what's precious for your customers. And guess what? That's our mission too. To go beyond clean, to take care of what's precious. That's our mission too. So with this kind of common mission, we are here to serve the industry, to make sure that every kid that goes to school is exposed to clean and hygienic atmosphere, environment. A person visiting a mall need not worry about the hygiene condition in a mall. Person sitting in an office should be productive enough. We should ensure together that the sick leaves do not create the productivity loss. That's what we are looking at. What is precious for us? The health of our customers, the health of our customers' employees, the health of our co-workers, the health of our colleagues is the most precious. Apart from that, the brand reputation that you carry, your organization carries. Healthy and safe food for everybody who is eating in those premises. And most importantly, the future of our planet. These are the 4 precious items which we together as an industry take care. And I feel we should all take pride. Many industries do this as philanthropy. We do it for living, right? Many industries do beach cleaning for philanthropy. That's living for us, right? So that's the amount of difference we make to the society. Now, when you talk about what product should I use? Yes, everybody wants the best possible product, but I feel for a product to be correct, it has to qualify all the 3 baskets. 1, it should be easy to use, most easy to use. 2, it should be pocket friendly, cost effective. And 3, it should be sustainable. Environmentally, it should not create a negative impact. From an ease of use perspective, these are the solutions from House of Diversity. Some of you have experienced most of it. Some of you experienced some of it. Some solutions like Diversity Express, where we talk about 1 sachet, 1-time cleaning. No headaches of dilution, anything. 1 sachet, 1-time cleaning for small sites. You talk about smart dose. That's accurate dosing combined with mobility. You are dependent on mounted dispensers for dosing accurately, and the cans give you mobility. Today, smart dose is a dispenser fitted on top of a can, so you have mobility and accurate dispensing together. That's the ease we are talking about. Separate product for washing and rinsing utensils. That was the norm. But Sumadime, 1 single solution for washing and rinsing both. That's the ease we are talking about. You disinfect a surface within 30 seconds. That's what Oxivir wipes is. So this is the ease that Diversity brings in. Now that we are easy, we do have cost-effective world-class solutions. IntelliPower. This is our lithium-ion solution. Currently, what you are using, most of the machines, they are charging 8 hours, working 4 hours. Lithium-ion will ensure that it charges for 4 hours, works for 4 hours. That's double productivity. And again, the technology allows intermittent charging. So you do not have to worry about the cycles being consumed and the battery getting exhausted. So all the advantages that you had in the mobile charging, that's what happens in lithium. That's the cost effectiveness we are talking about. Smart cleaning. Most of the people here would have experienced it in some form or the other. As a customer, as a service provider, you would have experienced this. I think everybody here would be a big ambassador of this because of the productivity enhancement that it brings. We talk about making the janitor life better. In a smart cleaning site, a janitor's hand never gets dirty. He never touches soiled water or soiled cloth. So that's the purpose. Talk about IntelliFlow a bit. Most of the machines that we use today, the dispensing of the chemicals is not controlled by the speed of the machine. So when the machine is slow, you dispense more chemicals. And that causes slip and fall accidents or loss of money because of extra usage. IntelliFlow is a technology by which the speed of chemical discharge is controlled by the speed of the machines. So this is the cost effectiveness that Diversity brings. The last but not the least, how sustainable are these? Your Clax Advanced, which a system of laundry which reduces energy consumption by 30 to 40%. A laundry which generally happens at 90 degrees, this happens at 60 degrees. So that's the amount of energy that you are saving. Antibacterial pads. Most of the pads, of course, every company says, use pads properly, you have to dry it and store it so that there is no bacterial formation. But on sites, that's a challenge. These pads, even they are wet, there will be no bacteria formation. So you will not be spreading bacteria across. Most importantly, there is no change in cost in use. So you are getting additional solution. That's how this product is. What are the new launches from the House of Diversity? Some sweeping solutions. Couple of them are placed outside, like Validmat 6500. These are the antibacterial pads that I was talking about. Moving on. This is our flagship CSR project, Garima, where we conduct workshops or take people from difficult parts of the society, train them at our cost for close to a 10 to 14 days training program, and make them employable at your places. Many of the organizations present here have partnered with us and taken those guys on payroll or as janitorial services at your sites. Thankful for that. But this is a part which diversity really takes pride in. We have impacted till now close to 45,000 people on account of this till now. This is 31K, slightly old. As on today, it's about 45,000. Again, smart cleaning, why it is part of dignity law. The same thing which I repeated earlier. The janitor does not touch soiled water. So you are bringing a kind of dignity to the job. You are not handling soiled things. Smart cleaning also plays a huge amount of role in sustainability, 55% of water savings. Imagine the amount of water we can save if everybody shifts to smart cleaning. That's what the power of smart cleaning is. Other CSR initiatives from Diversity, Linen for Life. We collect soiled linen from various hotels, wash them, sanitize them through an agency which does this job. We set up this infrastructure, employ people to do that job, and then these linen are distributed to the society who cannot afford it. So this is one of other. Next CSR initiative is Soap for Hope, where we again soil soap from hotels, give it to process them, sanitize them, give it to people who cannot afford soap. So this happens in 47 countries, and we have till now generated about 23 million soap bars. So ensure that these many people are exposed to hand washing at least, the least. Creating shared value. Apart from what we do in CSR, this industry is so nicely positioned. What other companies do as CSR, we do for living, right? So imagine the combined share value that we are able to bring in. Not go through this, but just tell you the impact we have had. Close to 50 million bars of soap till now. 46.7 million kg of carbon dioxide reduction till now. Impacted 1 million lives, saved close to 19 billion liters of water. This is both through CSR and through our normal operations that we do. I would suggest, or rather I would say, let's take advantage of this, the way we are placed in this country, and huge role we have to play in terms of taking this country to a cleaner, healthier place, making this country sustainable. We cannot achieve our goal of 2050 net zero if we do not focus on this industry. On that note, thank you. Enjoy the evening. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks a lot.
To know more about the diversity solutions, do scan the QR codes kept on your table. Moving on, I'm going to invite someone who has an extensive background in asset management services. He has dedicated 28 years of his career to understand and improve the practices that promote cleanliness, safety, and overall well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for none other than Mr. Ashish Poddar, Executive Director, Global Workplace Solutions, CBRE South Asia. So I request you to please come on stage and share your thoughts. Mr. Ashish Poddar.
Thank you. Just a quick audio check. Oops, yep, all right. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible. Wonderful. So I got slightly confused because it's not 28 years, so there's some goof up. That was I was sitting pretty there. I said, that's not me, that's somebody else, but suddenly that was a surprise. But anyway, fantastic to be here. A lot of old friends, learned colleagues from the industry. So the next 10, 15 minutes, I'm not going to be able to really educate anything to this really group. Everybody is a master of their own businesses. Everybody knows their own businesses. So I can't really teach anybody even the slightest thing. So just get rid of any notion that I'm going to give you anything. All I'm kind of doing over the next 10 minutes is kind of be a spectator myself and how I look at the business as the environment just passes by. So just imagine if you're kind of, during the COVID period, when you're seeing the world pass by, that's how the next 10 minutes is. And that's my endeavor to kind of maybe tell you what the environment looks like around the FM industry. So just starting off with the India story, and I was actually talking to Brijesh incidentally. So I thought Brijesh just kind of saw my slides before, and we were having this conversation around. A very, very powerful story. So I'm going to kind of build the environment that we are in, that we operate in, and how does that get impacted? So if you understand the environment, then each one of us has to really develop our solutions around the environment or to meet what the changing environment is all about. So starting with the India story, very, very powerful story. We're talking about India now currently being what, the 5th largest economy. So all of the headlines everybody's aware of. The government takes all of the credit for all of these big headlines. But more importantly, we've been growing at a healthy 6.1%. When you look at it, no other major economy is actually growing at this speed. So we're in a very, very good space. And this macroeconomic environment is what we are operating under. So we are, like they keep saying, we're in a very, very good space. We are in a very, very good time. And we're probably lucky to be alive during these times. One interesting statistics, while we are poised to, for example, now become the 3rd largest economy over the next 5 years, we still have a very, very low per capita income. So you can look at it very, very negatively, saying, okay, very, very low per capita income, what does that really mean? Look at it positively. It's an opportunity for India to actually improve the quality of life. What it means is we have cost advantage, and that cost advantage will continue for a few more years, at least probably in our lifetime. We are still, from a per capita income, number 31 in Asia. Huge advantage. We've got demographics which really favor us. That's the macroeconomic environment that we're operating in. And it gets better. When you look at it, and this is a recent white paper released by Goldman Sachs, and I'm sure the government is going to pick on this. We're looking at India is forecast to have the world's 2nd largest economy by 2075. Probably most of us in this room would have probably kicked the bucket by then, but it's a huge headline. I can't even think about it. When I saw it the first time, I said, something's wrong. Correct. But that's the fact. If you look at our growth rate, if you look at the track record, we're in a very, very bullish phase. I just can't get over the line. That's probably right at the bottom. I don't know how many can read it. And I was again talking to Brijesh. He mentioned that this is India's decade, and it's not India's decade. It's actually India's century. So we're talking about the next 100 years really being the India's century. So that's the kind of macroeconomic environment that we have to operate in. So all the good news. Now, how does that impact us in our space? So we look at it from a services company. We are a real estate services company. So obviously we look at it from a real estate services lens. And again, this is a good measure to understand what's happening around and how will it impact us. Most of us are from, let's say, the facilities management business and allied services. So how does this impact us? And obviously one measure is real estate. How's real estate performing? And if you look at that, the real estate, the core sector of real estate is actually growing faster than India's GDP. So if India is growing at 6%, the real estate sector is actually growing at 7 to 8%, at least over the next couple of years, for which we have hard data. So it's all translating back into real estate gains. If you look at what the investments are in real estate, it's across all sectors. So you can be operating as a services company in logistics. You're seeing the logistics sector seeing a lot of investment. You could be in residential, you could be in commercial, you could be in life sciences. You name it, all of the sectors is getting investment. And when money comes into real estate, it translates back into creating facilities. It translates into creating some sort of a real estate which needs to be ultimately managed. So if you look at all of the types of real estate, the different sectors, each and every one is attracting fantastic investments. So good news around the macroeconomic environment that we operate in. If you were to, for example, then translate this and the impact on the office sector. So we like to measure the future, so to speak, from how the office is performing. If you look at it, and if you look at COVID as well, there were some sectors which are really, really doing well, despite office sector not doing well. So imagine the implications we will have when the office sector does well. So when the office sector does well, it actually has a cascading impact on all types of real estate assets. What you see on the screen really is just the Q1. We've actually had absorption of close to 26 odd million square feet in the first half of 2023. We have not reached the highs of 2019, but again, we're on track to do about 50 million square feet of absorption in commercial real estate. That's a sector, and the indicator is only office space take up. And obviously, if people are taking up more office space, it means more jobs, it means more opportunities for each and every one sitting in this room. All of the sectors are doing well. Again, if you look at the pie chart, each and every sector, for example, has increased what it was taking in terms of the office space. So be it technology, be it flex service operators. And again, this is an indicator for us as service providers to see, do we have products that cater to these upcoming office sectors? Do we have a product or a service that can cater to, let's say, the flex service operators? That's an indicator again for each one of us to see, are we in the right space? Do we change anything in our existing businesses to really adapt to what's coming up as opportunities for each one of us? Very, very good offtake. One interesting statistic again that each one of us really needs to keep a lookout for is domestic firms actually taking up half of the office absorption. So there is tremendous growth opportunities which are being realized by Indian companies, not only multinationals coming and setting up offices. That's how traditionally a lot of the initial technology sectors grew. But now what you're seeing is growth across different sectors, across different tiers of companies. Look at some of the statistics, banking and financial really outperformed post-COVID. So great traction around taking up an absorption of office space. So what do we do next as again, service providers, one amongst each one of you? We then see, okay, a lot of companies taking up offices. We next go out and talk to these companies saying, what's your view? So the next couple of slides I'm going to talk about when we conduct an occupier survey. So we actually go out, talk to these office occupiers and ask them saying, what's your outlook? And that's how we pick up trends as to what should we be doing in our business. So I'm going to talk about 5 key themes that we picked up. So the first theme is in terms of going to the companies, occupiers, and asking them about their business and health of their business. So the business sentiment. The 2 graphs that you see is again, end of 2021 versus what we see in quarter of 2023. You can see a stark change. You can see that everyone's very, very bullish. When you look at it, 70% of the business sentiment is saying they're actually expanding, they're growing. We're talking about 70, and again, maybe if you look at the other 20%, they're in early stages or advanced stages of recovery. So we're only looking at about 10% of the companies who are not doing so well. Again, when you look at it closer, maybe one of us, for example, can be in a downturn or in a down cycle. But when you look at, again, the larger macroeconomic activity, 90% of the companies are saying that we're doing exceedingly well, or we are in a stage where we see positivity and we are kind of growing our business. So again, fantastic macroeconomic environment, very, very suitable for us to carry out our businesses. Next, when we look at it, when we look at them saying, okay, your businesses are growing, but how is it that you're working? One big question around this room or everyone who's doing in the FM business is hybrid working. Are people in office, not in office? So the next question around hybrid working. When you look at, again, the change that we've seen over the last year, a year and a half, from the end of 21 to the Q1 of 23, the office occupancy today is at about 52%. This plays out differently in different sectors. Obviously, technology, for example, you would see offices are still at about 30%, 40%, but banking financials is probably north of 60%. Manufacturing, industrial, life sciences is probably close to 90%. So if you were to look at across sectors, the office usage today, utilization is right up to 52%, which means people are back in offices. One more interesting statistics around the return to office. This is kind of a lot of interest, generates a lot of interest from market watchers, so to speak. Hybrid is here to stay. It's a given, but so is the office. Most companies are encouraging employees to be back in offices, which means good news for all of us. Selfishly, if you were to look at it, if people were not to be in offices, many of us will not have a job. But people are encouraging everyone to be back in offices. And how it's now playing out as policies in organizations, that ratio now stands at around 3 days in office. It's a given now that people would be in office at least for part of the week. If you were to kind of overlay all of these statistics, when we look at the mathematics, you probably would max out office occupancy between 60 to 70%. The statistics was around 63%. So that's the kind of occupancy you will hit on an average day. A day you may go above 100 or below, but I'm saying is 63% is what you need. What it means is you don't need so much of office space. So again, real estate guys tend to become then worried, oh, that means companies are letting go of offices. Yes and no. We ask them, what are your portfolio strategies? Which means if you're in a hybrid model, you probably end up giving up space. But that's not what we're hearing our companies say. And this graph has to be read from the right to the left. So you're looking at the extreme right saying, what's the scenario pre-COVID, which is 2019. And 2019, keep in mind, was a complete breakout year for Indian real estate and the office space absorption. We've not hit that kind of absorption, and we're not likely to hit it for the next few years. So 2019, all-time high. Most companies, when they were looking at their office space or their portfolios, were saying that we're going to increase it. 79% were saying that we are going to increase our office space. Obviously, you can see the sentiments right through the COVID period. People saying dipping down, a lot of people saying, oh, we're going to contract, we're going to become smaller. But look at 2023, which is really the leftmost graph. If you look at it in Q1 of 2023, what are we seeing? We're seeing close to 30% are actually saying we're going to be significantly larger. It's not only larger, but we're going to be significantly larger, which means we are saying that despite the office occupancy topping out at 60%, we are still going to need more office space because the companies themselves are growing, they're hiring. So what it means again is all of the macroeconomic indicators that you're seeing right around is actually translating down to real estate and uptake of office space. And when office does well, so does residential, so does all of the ancillary segments, so does retail, so does e-commerce, because there's robust consumption happening all around. So very, very interesting statistics around portfolio still growing. Selfishly, we are saying there's more work coming across our way. What then changes in the office? People are not there in office every day. And this again, probably for a facility manager occupies 80% of his mind space. Slightly busy slide. We went to occupiers asking them, what are you changing in terms of your office? A lot of them are actually upgrading their offices. They used the pandemic, they used the break, or they're using the low occupancy to actually upgrade their office infrastructure. And what are they being driven with? If you look at right on the top, it's all about experience. It's all about creating an experience for the end user when he's coming into the office for those 3 days. Some of the other key talking points, what's trending? The question is around, what's going to impact us? What's new? What's the future of office? It's all about use of technology, efficient use of technology. It's all about creating more amenities in the office. So the offices today look very, very different what they did a couple of years back. And that's going to continue to evolve. But again, what's driving the whole return to office is built around experience, which means We've got to create products. We've got to create services. We've got to train our teams to adapt and work in the renewed office environment. It looks very, very different today than what it did yesterday, and obviously it's going to continue to evolve. Lastly, one of the favorite buzzwords, and I really don't know anything about ESG. Everybody talks about ESG, but we try to understand what ESG means for a lot of the companies. It's something that is very, very difficult today. Very, very difficult because we're just beginning to kind of get into the whole world of ESG. And it's a very, very wide subject. I mean, you can probably spend days just talking about ESG opportunities around it. But most of the admin managers, client managers, real estate leaders, this is the favorite topic because this is in their KRAs now. The CEO somewhere has said, I am going to be net zero by 2040 without thinking where and what they are at. It's become a KRA for the CEO and it's become a KRA for everybody down the line, including me. But that's a reality. Everybody, and sometimes you need the message from the top to actually drive change, which is honestly a good thing to do. But this is where we are at. When we're going and talking to our occupiers saying, okay, what's going to drive your ESG agenda? A lot of them have actually started implementation of various activities. The percentages still seem low. Waste programs, companies have stopped using plastic, for example. Why is this again important? Why am I bringing it up? Kiran was talking about, for example, packaging, mobile. It impacts each one of us, our companies, our service delivery. Our packaging has to be environmental friendly. The use of chemicals have to be environment friendly. Is it 100% today? No, but we're getting there, which means you need to have products, you need to have services, you need to be able to create products or service lines to be able to cater to the revised environment that companies will operate in. There's pressure on developers because 5 years down the line, no corporate will renew a lease unless the development or the space is a green space. We've had tremendous uptake in terms of the LEED certifications and the audits that we are conducting on behalf of developers, landlords, occupiers. Because everybody is not only wanting to become green, but for them, it's something that they want to really show it as a medal and an achievement. Like I said, KRA, don't forget that. Ultimately, if you meet your KRA, you have a job, you pay your EMIs. If you don't have a job, you're out. So everybody's focus is ESG, and rightly so. Sorry, just moving on. And I'm just kind of summarizing it in the next 5 odd minutes. How does it really translate into all of the messaging that we're hearing from occupiers? How does it translate into changes for us in the FM? And again, everyone's kind of, at least I heard many of us being kind of skeptical. Oh, we don't know what should we be planning for. We don't know what the office is. So what do I kind of create? So everybody was kind of worried because there are a lot of uncertainty, and these are our clients, these are facility managers, colleagues, friends. Everybody's kind of wondering, I don't have a target. What do I aim at? And again, it's always a moving goalpost. So people don't need to be afraid of the changing environment in offices. Offices have changed through the ages. Be it 1800s to 2000s, what we are today has evolved. What has happened is that COVID has accelerated some of the change, but the change was always happening. So we don't need to be afraid that the fact that the office environment is changing. We really need to be able to embrace it. One very, very clear message is there is rapid digitalization. And that's one change that every one of us in the room really needs to be wary of, because it changes are very rapidly. And by the time you kind of get used to a particular technology, it's become obsolete. That will continue to be a change. We need to be able to manage that change. But other than that, we don't really need to be afraid of the office space. Today, what the offices are looking like is actually operating 5 different types of offices within one office. You don't have one type of office. You can't say, this is my office. You actually have 5 different environments within the same office, because you're trying to create a space that caters to different needs of your employees. And the employee base is very, very different now. Everybody is not coming to the office every day. So you're coming in for specific purposes to the office. When you're coming for a specific purpose to the office, what it means is I'm coming into the office because I want to do a Zoom meeting and I need to collaborate. So you need a different kind of space. You're coming into the office because you have 2 meetings, and after that you need 3 hours of maybe creating something which is ideating or creating on a individual contributor basis. So you need a dedicated quiet space. You need collab spaces. You may need to show off your technology, for example. So within an office, you're going to see 5 different types of offices, or the environments within the office is changing when you go from maybe the left wing to the right wing, or from one cubicle to the other. It's going to be very, very different. Why is this important for us? Is because the kind of people that we operate with have to be trained to work in that environment. We have to be intelligent to be able to adapt to different requirements within the same office. So you need a very, very active mindset to be able to run and manage different offices. And in turn, you need different products to be able to cater within the same offices. All right. Just kind of bringing it home in the next couple of minutes. Just the top 5 key messages is what I'm going to now focus on. The office defines the organization's culture now. So the office will resemble what the organization wants to put that big message out for its customers, for its employees, for all of its stakeholders. During the pandemic, people have worked for new organizations and have never ever visited the offices. Everybody knows that. People have actually joined and left the organization without even ever visiting the office. So what are they trying to do now? So they're saying, no, my employee needs to imbibe the culture of the organization, and the way that the organization can do that is by designing the office that really imbibes. So the offices will resemble the culture of the organization. We've got to create that whole experience for the employees. There's got to be really the trophy workplaces that companies like to showcase and attract talent, retain talent, and obviously get the talent more productive. So offices will define the organization culture. There is fundamental investment in employee well-being across all organizations. And this is a space that facility managers or companies like us tend to kind of ignore, saying this is an HR function. It no longer is an HR function. It's long gone. I think HR is going to be obsolete in sometimes, because the facility manager does the heavy lifting as we go forward. So we've got to be able to run employee, so to speak, well-being programs as part of facilities management. We've got to manage the hybrid workspace. We've got to be able to give back information to our clients, the admin managers. So here's what the engagement we are able to carry out as facility managers. Here is the wellness program, which is part of the facilities management offering. So it's fundamentally that we, again, as service providers, invest in employee well-being programs. Not only for our employees, but I'm talking about the clients as well. Increasingly, it's all about data. Data is what is driving the informed decision-making. Many of us have not invested enough in technology. We've got to be able to invest in technology to really back up what the client's investment in technology looks like. Clients will continue to invest heavily because for them, they've now looked at the hybrid workspace, the smart workspaces, they're putting in sensors, the new fit outs, the new offices that are coming up are extremely intelligent. So they're going to generate a lot of data. We've got to be able to decipher what the data looks like, make sense of the data ourselves, but also overlay our intelligence, our technology, our tools on what the client data points look like. So the analytics is something that all facility managers really need to focus on, market intelligence, and obviously it's got to result in productivity. What that productivity means is obviously clients not wanting to pay for services they don't need. So you're talking about on-demand facilities management services. They need flexible services. They're saying that we need services which I have asked for, and I need those specific services when I need them. And I'm not going to build whole infrastructure around services I don't need. When I need services, I should be able to call them out. And it's very, very akin to how the whole world looks like. When you feel hungry, you go to Zomato, you can order food or whatever there is. It's instant gratification at the end of the day. Gradually, we are seeing that as a big, big trend. It also means that there are new opportunities opening up for FM companies, which yesterday, nobody in India was willing to kind of look at. They said, this is my team. I'm going to put my hands around it and nobody touches them. That's no longer the case. So look at it from an opportunity perspective. Look at it how we are able to drive efficiency around our services. And obviously, from a last message perspective, sustainability is really not an option anymore. So if somebody is still thinking we can we can get by not having sustainability as a service. It's no longer be an option. You're going to be an option for most clients as we go forward. Anyway, thank you so much. As I say, facility management has to really evolve from doing operations, and it's really now driving transformation for our clients. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the insights that you have given us on the trends in the FM industry. I would request Mr. Brijesh Rathore, Vice President, Indian Subcontinent, Professional Business and Global Strategic Accounts, to please come up on stage and felicitate our keynote speaker, Mr. Ashish Poddar. A famous quote says, innovation is the unrelenting drive to break the status quo and develop again where few have dared to go. Innovation is truly key to success for any business to prosper. This brings to our next session, the panel discussion. The panel discussion on topic, inclusive innovation. And without further delay, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists on stage. So a big round of applause for Mr. Saji C. Sebastian, Chief Operating Officer, West Corp. Mr. Tahir Nalwala, Chief Operating Officer, Al Jamia Tas Safia University. Mr. Nikhil Verma, General Manager, Reliance Corporate Park Limited. It is also my pleasure to invite the moderator for the panel discussion, Ms. Kumud Bharti, Director, IFM Subject Matter Experts Team, JLL.
Good evening. Audible enough? Thank you, Vishnu. And as I get some takeaways from what Ashish said and what Kiran said, I feel what a beautiful segue to the topic that we are discussing here today. Welcome all of you again on this very rainy, cloudy Friday evening. A pleasure to have all of you here with our esteemed panel. A very, very intriguing and topic of a personal interest to me, inclusive innovation. I'm gonna, in context setting, break it in two parts. So what is innovation, right? I often use these statements to convince my ideas to the clients that I'm pitching to, is that not all innovations are inventions. Though the contrary is true, but not all innovations are inventions. Innovation doesn't necessarily has to be that expensive, once in a lifetime breakthrough phenomena that would happen. It can be very simple things sometimes. Having driven innovation councils for some of our large marquee clients, I have, let's say in 10 years, pitched hundreds of solutions to them and arrived at a very, very simple definition of innovation. So what's my definition? Innovation is basically solutions to our problems, right? The problems could be twofold. One is that it's an identified problem that the user knows that there's a problem and we need a solution. But it can be a problem that's not identified yet, and that paves the way for the future solutions that we build on, right? And then moving on to it being inclusive. When we talk about inclusive innovation, we are talking about how an innovation impacts the societal and environmental factors at play, like Ashish said, so sustainability, planet, people, lives we are impacting through an innovation that we are bringing in is what makes for an inclusive innovation. I mean, not taking much time, but if I have to quote an example, with a lot of respect to Elon Musk for the work that he does. If Tesla comes up with EVs, it's a great innovation. And when Mahindra designs a car in the category of, let's median household income bracket, that makes it more inclusive. And then when Bajaj comes up with the scooter, that's electric scooter or an auto rickshaw, that's how it becomes all the more inclusive, right? On that note, I welcome all my panel members again here today. And I request all of you to be our extended panel. And whenever I come to you for suggestions, inputs, please do chime in. Let me open with our first question. I would direct this to Saji. You being at the service provider side and serving hundreds of clients and meeting consumers and users every day, right? What does inclusive innovation mean for your industry?
Thank you, Kumud, and good evening, everyone. For me, I will take this entire discussion, keeping cleanings, soft services around as a central to the entire discussion. So for me, when I look at inclusive innovation, the operative word here is the inclusive part of it. And I think FM is one space where that's the end user who is actually the one who is consuming the service, the person who is providing it, all the other support system, including the vendor partners and service partners, come together. And that's when the actual solution or the services are rendered. And for any innovation to become inclusive, it's important that each of them are a part of that particular innovation, and they are benefiting from the same. There are a lot of innovations that I have seen today also, when beautifully the diversity has shown various kind of innovations in the way the chemicals are packaged or the smart cleaning solution. But at the end of the day, it would become only inclusive when the last person on the ground is actually using it and understanding why they are really doing it and what's the larger benefit they themselves have and what do they actually benefit to the rest of the world. So that understanding is very, very critical. And when that happens, I think that's when truly the inclusiveness comes in. For me, the innovation again here is the second part of it, like how you have taken. And innovation is, for me, is a very, very incremental change or a thought process correction in way we do our day-to-day mundane activities. Because at the end of the day, as I keep saying in my own field, that we do not, take people to the space or we build rockets. But when we do in our small day-to-day activities, if you are making corrections, improvements, which make the doer's life easy, saves time, able to see correct, what you call improvements from yesterday to today, for me, that itself is a good beginning for an innovative act. The challenge typically happens when we do not have enough data, as Ashish has mentioned. We do not typically operate out of data. And because we do not operate out of data, the innovation is never measured and we are not able to put a finger to that. So that is one place where I think we need to improve on. But inclusiveness will only happen when the last mile person sees a change in their lives, the actual doer of the job. And when he understands that why exactly he's doing what he's doing, I think that's when the inclusiveness come to play.
Thank you, Sajid. Thank you. I think you beautifully said when an innovation is truly inclusive only when you take the end users along, right? For people whom it is meant to be for, right? And I would pose the same question to Nikhil. Nikhil, you represent the CRE side of the business, right? For us, or for Saji, you are the user or you represent the user segment. So what would be your perspective on what inclusive innovation means from your perspective when you see it standing from your place?
Hi, good evening, everyone. As Kumud said and Saji said, inclusive innovation is something which really touches the bottom pyramid of the end user. So there are many innovations in this world, which are made keeping the developed countries or maybe keeping the top end of the pyramid or the high income group into consideration. But if you really look at it, with such a large population like a country that we have, Inclusive innovation will only be successful when it hits the really bottom pyramid of the people who are the masses. And if we are able to make an impact in their lives, then I think we have made a significant contribution to the real innovation.
Thank you, Nikhil. And Tahir, I am very intrigued with the segment that you represent. I mean, you had an educational trust, especially dealing with young children, the youth of the country, right? And how would you define it from that segment's perspective?
Hi, good evening, everyone. From my perspective, any innovation which brings in from any part of the brand, these youngster needs to be educated from the core. I mean, I belong to an education institute where these subject needs to be brought in to them to develop their minds in a proper way. I mean, especially on-field trainings has to be there to bring in proper innovation into the subjects, and that is how it is.
Right. So building the whole context of innovation and the right mindset right at the youth level and at the education level is what we're talking about here in this segment, right? That makes me head to my next question. And I'm going to direct it to Saji. We are all in pursuit of innovation, right? India is a country which is seeing hundreds of unicorns coming up every year. We are a very active startup industry. How important it is for innovation to impact all aspects of society and environment, in addition to having a great business model, how important it is that the innovations address the society and the environment at large?
I think we have a very robust role to play. And I loved Kiran's presentation where he spoke about for what it is CSR for the others, it's a day-to-day living for us. So whatever we do on a day-to-day basis is actually has a huge impact on society. Even our workforce, if they are benefited from any of the small innovations that we are bringing in and making their lives more meaningful, and they are able to see value in what they are actually contributing at large, and are what you call any kind of small changes, I think is really going to have its own impact. That's the first part. B is that we are a consumer of natural resource, because cleaning personally primarily cannot happen without, let's say, consumption of water, or to an extent, maybe even today, electricity. So at the end of the day, if you're conscious about what we are using and how we are using it, and if the last mile person is understanding it, and we are using innovative mechanisms to make their life easy, of their understanding of protecting, saving, and using the natural resources well. And I think we have made a correction there. Now I'll give you an example. When I was at Mumbai airport, we ran a particular program called as the Waterless Urinal Program. And when you're driving it through, I think I had a workforce at that time about 1,200 janitorial team, which is a large set of people. And most of them will have a role to play in, let's say, in a washroom. And if each one of them do not understand what is this Waterless Urinal Program all about, and they are not conscious about it, I'm sure the program would fail. Now, the challenge is not what the passengers would face, the infrastructure will actually fail, okay? Because the water lines will be choked, and I will have a larger issue to be sorted. The only way I made it successful, when I interacted with the team, and I told them only one thing, आपके घर पे आज के तारीख में पानी 3 घंटे आता है, हम यहाँ पे पानी बचाएंगे, हो सकता है कि आपके घर में 15 मिनट और पानी आएगा. That kind of a consciousness when you bring into your team and make them understand how their small incremental correction in their practices has a larger impact to the universe, I think that is where the innovation and ownership and the change on the ground happens.
Absolutely. I think, somebody said that all great innovations are great only when they are executed well, right? So execution is the key here, like what Apple does over and over again, not innovating a new phone every time, but just coming up with the new versions and branding it very nicely, right? So I would want to invite Tahir's additional comments on this question. Tahir, you again dealing with the education segment and trying to bring up children from where they're not able to fend for themselves and supporting them, right? How would you read the impact that innovation could create in such an industry, and what would be the things that you would be looking for in terms of whether it's technology, whether it's e-learning, etc., that could support them? I think you must be already using some of these tools and educational tools already to support these children, right? And that's how you bring in inclusion as well there, right? All right. I think I would invite some additional comments from the audience as well on this. If anybody would want to take a dig at, though we have a lot of innovation happening around us, a lot of startups coming up and probably becoming unicorns every year. In addition to having a great business model, your business being sustainable, having good affordability, how important it is in today's world. Like Ashish said, if you're not green, sustainable, then you cannot survive. What's your message for the innovators out there, for the startups out there, for the large enterprises out there on being inclusive in terms of creating a change in the society and for the planet? Would anybody want to take a dig at that? Kiran?
So when it comes to inclusiveness and so if you look at innovations from what diversity does today, we are into the waterless winners concept under First Minute program of diversity, and that's what we do, right? We ensure that today Mata Vaishno Devi, the entire building up till the top is covered with FMN, right? So that's the impact we are trying to create. And for me, any innovation would be successful or would meet its actual goal only if it is inclusive. We can all say a robot is innovative, but how many people can afford a robot today? Not many, right? So I also believe in innovation which is inclusive, which can be deployed across without the load on the environment, and of course without load on the pocket of the people who are buying.
Beautiful answer.
I like to add one more thing, Kumud, here, is that what we miss out is when we look at the FM fraternity, we unfortunately miss out on the larger workforce on the ground. I keep repeating this for the third time. I must be saying it in a different context because they are the real contributors. And unfortunately, on a daily basis, our BMSs, our various other data collection tools do not capture how much water have we consumed daily to clean the place. We do not really capture how much energy did we spend riding a ride-on from one end of the building to the other end. We will have probably a customer who tells us, I would want the machine to operate 3 times, whether it's needed or not. So at the end of the day, if you're not able to quantify what we are consuming and what is the end result that we are having, and we're able to exhibit that. So I would suggest that the innovation should be such that we are able to, at the end of the day, see tangible data flow, information that is available, and we are able to correlate that to the efforts that is made towards the innovations that the industry is making. And getting the inputs from the ground team on their day-to-day functions is very critical, because what happens is, with all due respect, including me, most of us today are very far away from what's happening on the ground. And we are very, very distant. And sometimes we make our decisions, we make our plans, we make our presentations, keeping our bottom lines in mind. And I think we need to be above our bottom lines to actually make innovations really happen. And I'm sure you have many more questions, so maybe I'll cover it then.
Sure, sure. Oh, as they say, what you cannot measure, you cannot improve. I totally agree to that. And leading on to my next question, Nikhil, for you. what are some of the top factors that you think would help innovations to be inclusive?
In my opinion, if the innovation has to be inclusive, there are 3 A's that need to be followed. One thing, the innovation has to be accessible, it has to be available, and it should be easily adaptable. So I'll just give an example of that. So the place where I work, we have a lot of women workforce who are there. So there are both on-roll employees and there are off-roll employees as well. So before pre-COVID, we used to offer a facility of giving sanitary napkins to on-roll women employees. They would call the help desk. The help desk would come, put it in an envelope, and a female would go and just give it on the desk. The process used to go on very well. So I was just wondering, and then I asked, okay, we're taking good care of the on-roll women workforce very well. But what about around there are 1,000+ female workforce who work? What about their needs about that? So, we contemplated that, and then we went to the market, and, it was very difficult, but somehow we found 1 or 2 vendors. And what we did was a very simple innovation. That's what I say inclusive when I meant in the first part was that, what targets the lower bottom pyramid of the workforce. Innovations are made for the top pyramid, fine, but what about lower workforce? So we got a sanitary napkin vending machine. Okay, we've seen coffee vending machines, we've seen ATMs and everything. So we got a sanitary napkin vending machine. Adaptable? Yes, they need it. Accessible? Yes, we thought now where to put it, So we got buildings, 14 buildings around, big buildings. So in every food court, we have a washroom. So we put the vending machine out there. Accessible, very good. Availability, okay. So now how do we do it? So the cost price at what we get is, we said, okay, we're not, gonna charge anything or make any profit out of that because that's basic necessity we need to offer. It's a basic facility we need to give to the women workforce, or especially the awful ones. So we kept it out there and we said the cost price that what we're getting is the same coin that you need to put in and you will get it out. Availability, yes, 24/7, whenever you want, Monday to Friday, it's available 365 days a year. Now the good part is innovation, yes, it's an vending machine, and I think many offices would be having that. But then we told them that it's not only for you, you want to take it for your mother, sister, friend, anybody, just do that, and they take it. And the impact that we had and the feedback that we had, positive impact from them, was really, really great. So I think the vendor who made that vending machine really made an inclusive innovation, as a part of his development. So, it really, when I meant to say is that when it impacts the bottom line of the real workforce, that's when it's an inclusive innovation. So I think these are 3 factors: accessibility, availability, and adaptability. Any innovation, if we keep these 3 factors in mind, for whom are we making the innovation? Who's going to use it, So if we keep those factors in mind, the innovators, I think it's really going to be a proper inclusive innovation. Thank you.
Absolutely. What a relevant and totally bang on example. I mean, when we talk about innovation being inclusive, or anything being inclusive for that matter, D&I, we talk about women, children, we talk about LGBTQ, how we can include them into the work and the benefits that we are trying to give back to the society, right? And if with that, I can move on to my next questions and direct that to Tahir. In your view, what are some of the top factors that would be a constraint for innovation to be inclusive?
The top factors for innovation to be inclusive would be lack of awareness, maybe among the people. Like if you talk about my university, when we started this university, I approached diversity people, Mr. Rajeshwari, if you would be here. And I started placing my requirements. Okay, I belong to the kitchen industry, and it was very easier for me because I'm a hotel management graduate. So it was very easier for me to list down all my requirements. But then on the other hand, there was a facility person, okay, because we are a non-profit organization, there are budget constraints, there are people who are not expertise in their subjects. So, it was very difficult for him to identify what all was needed to run the facility, okay. And it was very easier for me to get in diversity into action. Okay, they had an action plan, they had things in place, they met them, things were lined up very easily. Okay, so down the line, people who are even facility managers for non-profit organizations are not so much well aware about the products, about the technology. So it is very necessary for companies to come in and, instead of digitally coming in, maybe, physically on ground, on hands, giving them Diversey has a research center. So maybe, they took them or took all of them to the research center, and then there was a proper display of the products. Second thing I would want to take into consideration is, I think, budget. There is also a constraint on budget when it comes to non-profit organization. But then there are people who does not understand that those products which are innovated are also cost effective at the same time. So those are the things which I would like to point out.
Yeah, wonderful. I think awareness is the key, and knowing the right things for the right people at the right time. Again, if I can invite Nikhil's additional comments on that, this would be a favorite question for the startups, and they would want to know that what do you think as would be the top constraints, right, for them to become more inclusive, and they would want to go out and capture the world probably, but what's stopping them?
I think the three challenges that an inclusive innovator would face is, first of all, is to understand the market, for whom he's innovating the thing. So very, very important that, when you're doing an innovation, who's your target audience, who's your target market, that you're targeting. For example, I was just reading a few days back, there's a company, solar panel making company, and they went to a village and they said, we got solar panels, you can go to the bank and you will get subsidy and you will do that. But they realized later on that the solar panels were not selling, because of course the affordability of the villagers wasn't that high that they would be able to afford. So one, they did not keep that thing into mind, affordability of those people. So then they came up with a very nice program. They said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to install the solar panels in your village. During the day, you give us electricity, okay? And the night, we will give you a portion of the electricity back, because, throughout the day, you don't need that much night in a village or remote area as much as you would do in a nighttime. So, keeping number one, who's the end clientele out there. Second is in inclusive innovation, what happens is you need to target the masses, okay? And when you target the masses, and especially the lower bottom pyramid, what I mentioned, the margins are very, very less, but the volumes are very high. So you need to ensure that you need to constantly push your product into the market, so that, you can't keep always profit into consideration and think that, I'm selling a BMW or something, but the profit margins are very less, but you need to continuously push that your product in the market so that the availability is there. And the third thing which I feel is that over a period of time, the innovators who are there, if their capacity building can be done, like we see many series like Shark Tank, and we see many people coming up with fantastic innovations, but fantastic entrepreneurs who come up. But if they are given guidance and mentor by the big innovators, I think if they work both hand in hand, this challenge can be easily huddled up, because the innovators who come from the grassroots level really know the problem that is out there. So if that could be worked with the support, I think these three challenges could be overcome. Thank you.
Nikhil, absolutely bang on with the support system for the people who are trying to innovate. I have been very closely watching, the incubators, whether they sit from the IIT or some by the government itself, right? Niti Aayog runs some, seen some of the brightest minds there, and they could definitely use some help and mentoring, I would say. So with that, a leading on question to Saji. Right. So while every innovator would drive adoption, is it wise for innovators to optimize cost and thereby enhance inclusiveness of innovation? And I want to quote in a little bit of an example here, right? We are seeing so much technology right now, IoT sensors, green cleaning and the likes coming in the industry for us. And when I try to look at the markets and the solutions, what is making totally sense in terms of ROI and business proposal for Singapore does not really fly for India. Same provider, same solution provider, same IoT sensors, but Singapore market is different, labor costs are different, and we would rather have 10 janitors doing their job instead of putting a sensor there, right? So taking that spin into consideration, how can an innovator optimize cost to remain inclusive and still making a decent business model for the required segment of the industry?
So to start with, I the innovation per se can't be based on optimizing cost, because that cannot be the purpose of any innovation. Innovation has to be addressing the problem that the person is seeing, and that can't be only cost. It's actually giving a better solution to an active problem that is there. For example, I gave an example of waterless urinal earlier. For example, there's a beautiful fleet management system, let's say, that Diversity has. And how much of it gets adopted into the market, I'm not too sure. Okay. So when I had this option, again, I go back to the airport. And when I had a solution for waterless urinal, it took me a year to implement it. And it was probably it was a very long-term project. But the kind of a cost impact and the societal impact it would have had would be much bigger. Now let us look at a better solution. Like I had 100 ride-ons and 100 ride-on type machines which were there at the airport. Now, if I had a fleet management system, it could have really helped me monitor a lot of things and understand how the machines were operated. But the cost, and I looked at the ROI against that, for me, then it did not make sense, right? So it's important what's the problem that we are resolving and what is where the cost is of importance, where the larger impact is critical. What is the ROI all about? Is it only the money and the returns, or is it the impact that it is trying to solve? Second thing is an innovator, when he is trying to solve a problem, he has to be looking at the problem alone. Because when you, as you know, the earlier panelists just mentioned, when you scale up things, maybe the cost becomes possible. Now, I was just recently, we are trying to put some kind of a digital solution for our organization. And when we started off, and we got an upfront proposals coming in from various service partners. And when looking at immediately the proposal, we felt that maybe we don't have enough budget. And then we started engaging with them, working with them. And today, we have been able to solution things at a cost which is probably really doable. Okay, and that took an engagement plan of about 3 months or to 4 months with those same service partners, right? So it is the purpose that takes precedence over anything else. And in the long run, I'm sure cost would be justified in terms of the societal impact or actual bottom line that is going to come in.
Absolutely. I think affordability for the market segment where an operator is plays a big role on making it inclusive. If people cannot afford it, they cannot implement it, and that's how we cannot get the benefit of the solution, right? So we are done with our questions as such. As a closing note, I would want to quote that I was reading a recent report from Forbes, and they said 73% of the consumers are interested in knowing that the brands that they buy from, how are they impacting the society and the environment? What is their CSR, or what is their statement for the planet and sustainability as such? So I think it can be easily converted into a business model. When we say that the consumer cares about it, that means that there is a way to convert it into a business opportunity and drive inclusive innovation for the world at large. So we are at the end of our session. I would like to thank all the panelists and the audience for being actively attentive and not sleeping off in the middle of the session. So thank you. We would like to take, if there are any questions from the audience, any feedback, input, anything, please. Yes.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's really honor and privilege to hear from the stalwarts of the industry. When we talk about the inclusive of innovation, as Mr. Saji has quoted, that there's a mass which is there in the system. Being in India, more than 100 crores of population, huge task of giving a job opportunity for people. And when we belong to a facility management, and when we talk about cleaning, I've learned a lot from this gentleman. When we talk about cleaning as a science, you need not be a scientist for that. Okay. We expect a minimum wage person to understand the nitty-gritty of cleanliness. So my appeal to the educational institutes and all the other organizations where we can organize a curriculum of, say, cleaning or a facility management or a housekeeper. Even the janitor will be proud enough to say that I'm a certified janitor and I'm a qualified janitor, and I can request for not minimum wages, but I can request for something additional within perks, and I can ensure that the vision what the stalwarts over here has, that मैं इतना urinal waterless urinal में इतना मैंने पानी बचाया है, वो समझदारी समझने के लिए भी एक कोर्स की जरूरत पड़ेगी, एक एजुकेशन की जरूरत पड़ेगी. तो ये inclusive of innovation is not only about the machines and technicals and everything, but it also it is also important to understand वो सोच जो है. I would like to quote an example. I was at Bangalore during this COVID time, and I happened to visit the airport. I met the gentleman, that boy, very pleasantly, with a very pride. He invited me to use the washroom, as if I'm a king and I'm going to sit on the throne. मतलब इस तरीके से the boy was being trained enough to, मतलब उसको इतना pride feel हो रहा था कि sir, just 2 minutes. He went to the washroom, he cleaned the commode, वो jet spray से clean किया, उसने उसके ऊपर सारा tissue paper से clean करके, he invited literally. So that is how a change will be from here. Generally, अगर हम कोई airport से जाते हैं, security guard है या janitor है, हम ध्यान भी नहीं देते हैं कि वो बंदा है, exist करता है या नहीं करता है. उसको हम याद तभी, हमको वो याद तभी आता है जब हम कोई गंदगी देखें. So the point is, the educational pattern, यहाँ पर कोई बेसिक्स की जरूरत नहीं होती कि वो HSC पास होना चाहिए, ग्रेजुएट होना चाहिए. अगर हम कोई ऐसे करिकुलम इसके अंदर ऐड करते हैं तो वो बच्चे को भी ऐसा फील होगा कि yes, though I am not educated, but I am respected on that particular thing. So that is what I wanted to.
Lovely. I think
Thank you so much.
I just to say, I remember we both have done something together on this.
Yes.
We did a skill development program for a set of people. That is first part. The second is that we expect our team on the ground to be actually working for 8 hours because we are paying them for 8 hours. Where do they have the time to learn? Where they have the time to actually think and say that I really need to imbibe more knowledge? We are expecting them only to deliver. We are only expecting to do their tasks for which they have been paid. I think that approach has to really change, and we need to ensure that they, people who are there actually on the ground is seeking knowledge, seeking information, giving them an opportunity to learn and grow ahead. And that is a responsibility for each of us sitting here in this room to make that opportunity being made available for the workforce on the ground. And as I mentioned earlier, if you can't measure it, you can't actually understand that. If each of us, I think the kind of, like I manage a workforce of 50,000 today, I'm sure that's the scale with quite a few of us here. So if we are together is able to improve lives and make them knowledgeable workers for about 2 lakh, 3 lakh people, I think that's the largest impact that we can do. And we are really doing justice to the industry.
I'll just add, there's an encouraging note for you, Rahul. We just concluded the first batch of the facility management graduation course for the Delhi University, and Clean India Journal had contributed by creating the module. And now we are working with Manipal University to create the graduation course.
I think we may be running short of time, but I thought I had one more point, is that most organizations here, we speak about innovation, we speak about digitization, but the problem here is when we budget our businesses, we really do not have budget for innovation. We really do not have budget for, we may have budget for digitization because it adds, because it gives us data for our bottom line. It's important as a part of our standard budgeting, we really need to have a kind of a small percentage of our budgets being provided for innovative steps. Even if we lose money in that, that's fine, as long as it's taking us forward. And we need to have an innovation officer or a digital officer being a part of our system. Because if we don't have that, we can't be chalta firta innovator every time, right? So we need somebody who has to be really focused on the same. And that has to be a part of our FM structure whenever we discuss, whenever we have our org structure being created. That's the need of the day. And we unfortunately do not have time to think, and we do not have time to really practice whatever we think. When we are in this room, we think these are the things to be done. But when we move out, we all get into our mundane activities. So that's what I wanted to say.
We have another question.
In case, I know we are running out of time.
Please.
So first of all, a comment. Thanks for moderating such a wonderful session. We talked about such a wonderful terms of inclusive innovation that helps innovation reach to the last mile, the person. Now, my one question, or I would say you can take it as a comment also, that might invoke some thoughts within this August audience. We heard about, the facility management. Today, the office space is changing the environment. We are having more and more inclusive environment and creating multiple office spaces within the same, premise. So taking clues from there, what do you think, facility management, firms, companies are doing to take these, hygiene space for employee well-being? Is there something, a pattern do you see that hygiene, creating a safe hygiene space also has a relationship with the employees' well-being?
Nikhil, would you like to take that, or I can? Okay.
It's been a very nice question. I think, yes, hygiene plays a very important role in terms of employee well-being. And as Mr. Poddar said, that one of the top qualities, the features that the organizations are looking for is, how to make the whole work experience, great for employees. Hygiene is at the core and at the basic necessity of any employee. I'm sure whenever anybody wants or is leaving home and coming to the office, he's expecting, in hotels, we have a proverb that a hotel is a home away from home. But for facilities, we do not have any sentence like that. I think it's time we need to make something similar to that. So similar, yes, we can't say we don't have offices at home, and we can't say an office like an office for when an employee comes to work. But yes, very, very important. And till I think few years back, washroom hygiene was considered as, it's okay, it's a part of the work, it's a part of the office in a corner, washroom and all that. But now hygiene and with advanced medical science and information available so much at the tip of fingertips of everybody knows what is expected in a washroom. There are times, the times when somebody would think, that the mop is being done and it's being taken care of. Now, when employees come to work, they always ask for, what kind of odor are you using? You're using air freshener. What's the MSDS of the air freshener? So sometimes I get these queries, in response. Sometimes I get queries, from employees that, okay, I saw the same mop being used inside the washroom and being outside. Surprising. I thought I was the only one who had knowledge about this, but sometimes I get questions from employees like that. So sometimes I get, questions from female employees, there are products available in the market, which are like, all of you must have known that there are toilet, when in a female washroom, there's a plastic sheet that goes around, and you just turn it on, and just for the next female occupant, it's clean and hygienic. So when I want to install that, so people and employees especially are very well aware about what is expected. We can't be thinking that we are housekeepers and we are knowledgeable about it. They are much more educated about that. And it's time now that we take one step ahead and think one thing ahead of what they are thinking, right? So very important that, you keep on checking with the manufacturers what is new. But till few years back, what used to happen was we used to wait for them to come and say, okay, we got a product, we would like to experiment, would like to try it. I have changed my approach. I go to the vendors and ask them, what else do you have now? Okay, tell me what new do you want. I want to I want to, put it in my workplace before any other facility office does that. So I think this approach is very much now required, and to take and understand that washroom hygiene or workplace hygiene is now the core of the mindset of the generation, and especially with Gen Z coming into the picture. We can't be thinking, that they are just into mobiles and watching that. Maybe that's what the next video that they're watching is, how to have a better washroom. You never know that. So time that we are ahead of Gen Z and think one step ahead and think of new products that we can introduce. Thank you.
I think we covered quite a lot, but I just wanted to mention two more things. I think everybody's, as you rightly said, everybody's conscious about their own well-being, and whether they are in the office or elsewhere. Everybody's well-traveled today, so they would expect something better in their own offices. And today, the data is available. They know that what is the carbon dioxide level in the kind of meeting rooms that they today have. They know that the nitrogen content in their washrooms if they really want to know. So at the end of the day, when the information is available, I'm sure we are able to do corrective steps also basis that. As housekeepers, we need to be conscious and able to take corrective steps based on the information that is available. And I've seen offices today which is making this data upfront available to their employees. So if that is available to them, I'm sure we have to be on our toes, and that will automatically improve occupancy, maybe not from 3 days a week to maybe 4 days a week. That's probably all the real estate people are looking at.
Hello. Yeah, this side. Just last question from my side. It's not a question. Basically, it's just a proposal from my side. Now, we are talking a lot about innovation. I'm just saying two things. Previously, people were calling it manpower. Now we call it human resource. Similarly, we can propose few changes in the nomenclature so that they are directly encouraging to the people who are working for us. Like one thing for facility managers, we can call them business enablers. So this is one nomenclature which I'm proposing. Second thing for janitors, housekeepers, we always resemble them with cleaning and all. We walk into hospitals, one of the finest of hospitals, if you go, it's clean because of, mainly because of housekeepers and all. So the second part, what I want to say is that whenever we are making any contracts now, don't mention housekeeping or janitors, mention health engineers. If this can be done, this can be an innovation. And if this is done across the board, whosoever is making any contracts with any clients, or even the clients who are doing any kind of contracts with any vendors, these are the two nomenclatures, business enablers and health engineers. If this can work out, and this thing will be a real game changer. Thank you.
Vishnu, before we close, just 10 seconds more. The three important things that I'm working on right now, being a cleaning SME as well. One, we used to have experience ambassadors. Now we have hygiene cops. So I think that's something that he's speaking about. And we had industry experts come in and do the training program for them. And one of those industry experts is standing here. We are building ATP protocols for some of our large clients on establishing the cleaning benchmarks, that how do you define and prove that a space is clean unless it's my perception, right? And this is going to go a long way. And we have a lot of requests coming in from our large clients talking about how you establish a cleaning and hygiene index. So that's something that I'm working on next. A paper is coming up. I think there's a lot of scope for establishing well-being and hygiene together for a workplace environment. And already a lot of forward-looking clients are working on it in detail and a very, very scientific approach. So with that, I will close. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vishnu. Over to you.
Thank you to all the panel members and our moderator, Ms. Kumud Bharti, for their valuable inputs on inclusive innovation. I would like to request Mr. Al Kumar Nair, marketing leader, Indian subcontinent, to please come up on stage and felicitate our panelists and our moderator. Big round of applause. Now is the time to have the next round of panel discussion. And the topic of this discussion is going to surely enlighten our knowledge on the business aspects of the industry. The topic is cost plus versus output based structure. Which way forward for the FM industry? And without further ado, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists on stage. So a big round of applause for Mr. Rahul Kamble, President Operations, Crystal Group. Mr. Makrand Kulkarni, Country Head IFM and Mall Services, Reliance Retail. Mr. Anand Jaju, CFO and Board Director, OCS. Mr. Deepak Wazirani, Director, Supply Chain, Warehouse and Logistics, Skechers. Mr. Aniket Seth, Vice President Operations, Sila Solutions. Mr. Anup Sharma, Senior Vice President, Business Development, DTSS. I would also like to invite the moderator for the panel discussion, Ms. Mohana M., Editor, Clean India Journal. Over to you, ma'am.
Sorry, too many papers. No, I'm not sitting. Yeah, thanks. Please, I'm not sitting. I'm audible? Great. Good evening, everybody. Let's all clap because thank you, Diversi, for bringing us together. This is a moment for us, the cleaning people, the people in the facility management. And this is a topic which is selected right at the end, the most debatable, the most inconclusive topic. But yes, we're going to have a panel who is going to come to some conclusion of what we can do when it's an outcome-based, output-based versus cost plus. And we love to put that versus, though we know that it's either this or that. Okay, I would like to take a cue from what the earlier panel was talking about, measuring what we are doing today. Being in the industry, in the journalism industry, I was working for the Diamond Market publication. And the most interesting fact that I learned there, how do you put a price to a diamond? It's one person sitting in the lab who's going to take that loop and look into the diamond and say how many inclusions are there and then give it a rate. The lesser the inclusions, the better the price of the diamond. What different are we doing? How clean what you have used to clean that space? And yes, you're going to say per square meter, this many people, they clean so much and this is the rate. So when a diamond industry can, quantify on the inclusions that a person can see, here we are defining what is the rate for cleaning. Okay, I'll not take much time. While we all know what is the definition of an outcome-based or an output-based, service, let's first listen to what they have to say and what is their perspective. Let's start from the customer end. Makrand, what would you say, or how would you define a cost plus and an outcome based model?
See, today defining a cost plus is towards product concerns. The product side, it's easy because most of the people at product side, we are using a cost plus kind of things, which is easy to define the lot of things around that, the cost of products and all that, and the plus kind of thing. But if you come to the services, that's the most challenging kind of when we shift to the from cost plus to the outcome base. See, in the both the scenarios, where are the products are there, it's easy to define because you know the ratio and all that utilizations. The output base you can easily do with the product side of it. When it becomes the service side of it, its outcome base is a challenge, wherein the quality, then you are the specification, what is the outcome you are looking at, defining the defining the output is very unique. Something which is maybe acceptable to me may not be acceptable to anybody. So that's perspective is yet to be defined kind of scenario. That's the challenging stuff. So it's a major border ratio which has not been defined and very difficult to do it. That's something which is need to be worked around. With that even comes the quality kind of scenario. The quality is very subjective for every individual in this industry, which is very difficult to define as a customer is concerned, which may be currently may be acceptable to somebody, may not be acceptable to me, or maybe is acceptable to X person, may not be acceptable to Y person. That's the challenge. And then is that industry is ready kind of an experimental which is there. Another important aspect towards that is that the basic fundamental regulations which are there, are they allowing us to leverages around that? That's the what see where the outcomes concern is there. Cost plus, yes, we have everything is minimum wages, all that defined. But when it shift to the outcome basis, regulatory side or the law side, as a principal employer, that's the challenging stuff, because on the output side, therein I think a lot of debatable stuff there.
Rahul, I think you can add on to that, from your service side, how do you define these two models?
So when we talk about cost plus and we talk about the output, being into this industry from more than a decade plus, we have always find the challenge about how to quantify the output. The lens which I am seeing is not clean, but which I, as a user, if I am cleaning, I am seeing it is clean. So there is always a debatable subject, whether it has to be an output based or whether it has to be on the cost plus base. Now what happens, a decade plus, when we talk about the cost plus, it used to be 10%, 15%, 20%. There used to be a margin where it used to be proposed to the service provider. Now it is shrinking to a particular level where the SLAs are killing the actual profits of the service provider. So when we talk about cost plus and when we talk about the output, it has to be a hand and gloves subject where the parameters has to be defined, SLAs has to be defined. SLAs will really help to innovate certain things. I'm very sure that SLA will always help the user to get into the actual performance parameters. Because if you do not have the SLAs, a janitor or a service provider will never be able to perform. But equally, there has to be a cap when it comes to a financial implication. So that is where I come from, that SLA and cost output subject, where it has to go hand in hand. It has to be a win-win situation, because ultimately the end user who is doing that particular job is a minimum wage earner.
So we cannot expect him or her to be an engineer of that particular logics where he or she will put a lot of applications of mind. They will be doing their 8 hours job and they will be moving. So ultimately, whoever is going to supervise that particular activity is going to be responsible. That is the service provider. And service provider should get that particular margin, a minimalistic margin, wherein they have to, they can work out on the outcome. So outcome will definitely come if the parameters are very clearly defined. It cannot be too stringent.
Understand. This is an idealistic situation that you're talking. Let's talk from the operations point of view, Aniket.
So the way we look at a cost plus model versus an output based model, right, boils down to how is it defined on day 1 or day T-30 when we're figuring out how to close a contract, or we're figuring out how to start or how to pivot from a cost plus model to an output based model. It's about the admin team as well as the operations team actually sitting together and defining what are we really looking for. And to be very honest, that is an exercise that needs to be done even in a cost plus model. But just because as an industry, we are used to a cost plus model, we don't necessarily sit and put as much thought to the output or to the SLA or what are we actually hiring a certain service provider for. In an output based model, it forces both sides to clearly write down what the output is, to define it, to define processes of signing off. And that brings a lot of clarity to both sides of the table. At the same time, I mean, going forward, why are we hiring a service provider for a certain output? So by then defining a per square foot rate, the admin team gives the service provider or forces the service provider to innovate and figure out how to automate, how to use technology, how to cover up for minimum wage increments and still retain a certain profit margin. It forces us to think out of the box. Do I need a dedicated deep cleaning team, or can I have one team that goes to different sites, one on Monday night, one on Tuesday night, one on Wednesday night, one on Thursday night in the same campus or in the same vicinity? Do I need so much manpower, or can I add 3 more people in the night shift, and by 9 a.m. once the staff starts coming in, besides the washroom and the pantry areas, there's not much to service. So maybe I can shift those janitors to another contract. So it allows us to then innovate and give better solutions at a better price. And it just boils down to how we have actually defined the model and the effort that we put on day 0 or before starting the contract.
Great. That's a very valid point that you made. Let's look at it from the business perspective. We can have Anand from the finance perspective. If you can tell me what is a better model, whether it is an output based or whether it is, cost plus that you should opt for when it comes to picking up services.
Sure. Thank you, Mohana. Firstly, good evening, everyone. I think this is one of the very important topic. And actually, I am dealing in my company while approving the proposals day in, day out. And I'm very happy that we are doing this kind of conversations. See, to summarize, traditionally for so many years, cost plus model is a most familiar one. People are having that comfort. And from the vendor side, from the service provider side, if you see, he is anyways preparing the entire cost sheet. The whole consumables, salaries, attendance, mandates, etc. And it's only the markup or the management fee which prevails in the cost plus. And the risk with the service provider is minimal. The risk is with the whatever inflation happens, particularly it is with the client. And that is the reason low risk and low margin. I give you an example, like if there is 100 people deployed on the site and there is a good rostering and good planning and time and motion study, and if my team leader reduces it to 90, the 10 people reduction is actually a discouragement because he's actually reducing his billing, hence low management fee. So cost plus model actually is not a motivation to bring efficiencies and low accountability. So hence, the ultimate long term which will happen is output based model, because there will be a struggle in the beginning to, after doing the site surveys, how we will define the SLAs, and also the adoption and absorption of both buyer and seller to define those SLAs, agree those SLAs, and actually then measure them. Indeed, that will give incentive to the service provider to basically do mechanization, automation, or basically invest on maybe high caliber people, because it's output based will not be happen just only for cleaning. It has to be hard services, soft services. It's a total TFM. And eventually when output will get, this model will get more and more matured, it will be a true total facility management. And currently I can say in last 5 years, if you see, there is a particular sectors are preferring, like data center and aviation, privatized aviation. Such advanced sectors in clients are actually going for output based because they see the benefits. From client side, if you see, the advantage is the billing is very simple. They need, anyways, the service provider is calculating all the cost sheets and minimum wage revisions and all that stuff. He's doing a lot of efforts, but the same thing is to be verified in the same manner for the correctness by the client's AP team and the operations team and the HR team and the compliance team. So if you, indeed, compliance of labor compliances will be one of the KPI, so somebody will anyways verify from client side. But if you see, the billing can be so simpler if it says, say, 4 rupees per square foot of 1 lakh square feet. It makes life simpler if those KPIs are agreed. So my view is we are into a hybrid situation now. Like there is an SLA defined, but still 95% attendance should be there of 100 people. So it doesn't make sense still, but I think that is how we are transitioning. Probably it's the right direction set already. That's my view.
Please add to this.
Sure, thanks. I think very, very valid points raised by you. So, you know, going back a couple of years, maybe 20 years ago, facility management used to be an in-house function of the companies themselves. They used to have, you know, housekeepers and janitors, engineering staff on their roles. And the whole idea, the whole premise behind outsourcing these services to a third-party companies like ours was that these third-party companies would bring in a lot of expertise. They will bring in a lot of efficiencies into the system. They'll bring in a lot of innovation. And that is why the whole, you know, point of outsourcing the services to an expert. I think the market right now is moving in a direction of outsourcing of services more and more. However, we still have the old hangover of looking at the cost as the input model, and also at the same time, you know, judging the output of the service provider without giving any flexibility. So the advantage to the, you know, the client side is probably that they're able to, for them, transparency on the input cost and a management fee on top is something what they are looking at. But it beats the whole purpose of outsourcing, because then there is no incentive left for the service provider to bring in any efficiency into the system, to bring in any innovation into the system, to make a higher margin and invest that money back into the, you know, the processes to probably digitalize it, bring in some robotics, bring in some AI into the pack. So all these things are there. But I would say certainly in the last 15 years, and especially in the last 5 years, there's a shift. There's a discussion. This discussion is, you know, probably one of the outcome of these changes which are happening in the industry. That overall the industry shift is moving slowly from a cost plus model to a output based model. Also within the industry, if you see, certain segments are very quick and demanding that you please give us an output based model rather than a cost plus model. These demands are coming from the clients, especially, you know, as Mr. Jaju mentioned, from the data centers, from private aviation, from organizations which are process-driven industries, from industries who really want, who are really interested in a per square feet, per piece contract, per unit rate model, or a total cost of operations. So I have an X budget, I outsource the entire budget to you. I don't have to look at the breakup of those budget, but certainly I'll look at the output of what I want from that budget. Even in a IT/ITES environment, you'll see why all this discussion is happening is really we want to give that a certain benefit to the end user who's your employee, give a certain experience to that employee in the workplace so that that employee contributes to your organization. If that is the concept, then your input cost really is not the solution to look at. The solution is really, if I'm impacting the employee and that employee improves the productivity and your organization makes a better profit, then I will innovate, I will digitalize, I will invest a lot in technology. I will try to reduce the number of manpower, reduce the machine, increase the machine, or whatever it is. But that solution will be addressed to an end user whose output is measured. So
Right,
that's my
Chanuk,
take
yes.
on the.
We have all these points, but if I have to put it in very crude terms, when we talk of cost plus, the customer is the owner. He decides what to buy, what resources to put in. And when it's outcome-based, the service provider is the owner because he gets to choose what he needs to do. Let's move on to the next aspect of this. Let's ask Deepak, if you were given a choice, what would you choose? Cost plus or an outcome or output-based model?
Thanks. Good evening, friends. So I think as a customer, we're trying to set up one of the largest warehouses in the country, which also has a very large office associated with it. The attempt that we are trying to do with one of the service providers who we've shortlisted is very, very clearly, an output-based model is what we're talking to them about. What is it? What would they charge on the per square feet for on the floor? And what would it be for the office area? And again, the whole approach is from a procurement perspective. Look, you do a site survey, you come up with the infrastructure, resources, number of people, assets that you want to deploy. And then, of course, that's in the background, but eventually, it's important to convert. So for me, I need simplicity in billing, right? While it's very, very simple that, you get billed for a certain office area on a per square foot basis. And similarly, there could be a different rate for a different area, but it's a very simple model to implement. And today with the kind of digitization that is going on, for example, anybody coming in or going out of the campus is being face scanned, from an opportunity perspective, it's not that you can get anybody in and anybody out. So the number of people that the service provider has inside your premises. You've agreed with him what brand of chemicals that you're using, what kind of assets or machines he's going to use. So while you have that in the background, in the front, I would always prefer an output-based model. From a simplicity perspective, from a transparency perspective, you've already done this ground-up rigmarole during your negotiations in terms of what is the number of people you need. And then at the end of the day, it's about how you put your KPIs in place. So, today with the kind of digitization and tech that is in place, you can even ask the janitor to click a photograph of, your washroom every hour, upload it. So there's enough of tech help that you can take. And see, eventually, as a customer, I would like to call out and state upfront whether this place looks clean to me or not. I mean, your understanding and your trust with your service provider is key, right? If you think this could be better, it could be better, simple, right? So, I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Deepak, you're neither this side nor that side. You're giving
No. I mean, look, you use that for building up the whole cost and how do you arrive at the rate per square foot eventually, right? The denominator is your area, right? But I would always sign up a contract for output-based.
Okay, great. Okay, so we just have a perspective of the whole thing. Makrand, I'll come back to you. When we're talking about cost plus and output based model, if you have, in your experience, what has been your take on a output based model? Any specific 2 or 3 points that you can make?
See, as I earlier said, output-based model is something which, as the facility managers, technical side, we all are implementing it. If you look at my air conditioning, we be saying that, okay, I'm not least bothered about what you do, what you're there. 8 years, your life is a lifespan is defined. You give me this, you have to maintaining all the equipment's happening. But the challenging stuff is toward the housekeeping. These technical side it's completely people are merged and everybody is using it because of the way technology is around the HVAC side or the comfort side or the engineering side or the power side or is there. It's all defined. But which comes to the housekeeping, the main conceptual hygiene standards, measurable standards, which is, I think, a challenging. Defining these quantitative, quantifying and qualitative measures, which is one of the biggest challenge today, which for the service provider as and for me is there. Something which is my requirement may not be deliverable kind of scenario. That's the differential biggest challenging I feel as major differential thing. We do have KPIs defining around attendance, all these things which are there. But if you look at the quality and the quantity, all these are quantitative side. There's huge gap, which is very much, I think, is the challenging stuff for me, which measuring of that. That's
Right.
personally.
Let's have from the audience, he talks this as a challenge. Anybody can tell us what is the solution for this? How do you overcome this challenge as a service provider?
Mohana, the way you asked, people are sitting with solution if there was such
No,
an easy
let's
thing.
have some views.
If such
There
was such
always
an
be a
easy
point
thing to
of
get
view.
solution.
Yes.
I'll tell you from diversity side, I myself personally has taken this topic out in the market, if I'm not mistaken in my accounting, almost 16, 17 years back. I can even tell the side where we initiated this first. This was Accenture along with JLL team in Bangalore. I had a couple of rounds of meeting with Babji and team. JLL friends must be knowing Babji very well. And he asked me, can you join Aravind? Aravind Sinha was the vice president at that time. Can I join Aravind and make a pitch of this SLA-based model to Accenture? Actually, gladly accepted it. And we had experience even at that time, in the sense not from India. Back in UK, if you know about Sainsbury, the biggest retail chain, Asda is today's Walmart. I mean, its name is still continuing in the Asda. Not exactly your output-based model, the way you are saying. I've never seen a contract, their contract. Neither I heard it from your UK colleagues. But a major portion of the payment or whatever you're paying to them, what's linked to the performance, SLA, of which few things very, very critical. The number of complaints from the end recipient of the facility. Retail chain, the number of complaints lodged by the people, the shoppers, is counted. So that was a target. And the wetness of the floor in the washroom, there was a number of patches or puddles, it was different. So I'll tell you, I've seen it's called a Roscoe questionnaire. There are 800 questions in that, which was a part of the contract. So when I spoke about it, the essential people just leaned back saying that it's not happening in India. So if that's the way we are going to measure, that's not happening. See, I'll tell you, even today, when we speak to the people, I mean, it's my personal experience in the industry, 22 years in the cleaning industry, in diversity. Everyone wants to do it. the customer, like the end recipient, they also want to do it. The FM company is more than happy to jump into this. Why this is not happening today? Why we are finding it's difficult? Like all of you, most of you mentioned, how do you measure it? Unless it's made as a part of the contract, like you said, at the time of the contract, these parameters, if it can be defined, discussed, aligned, then there has to be a mechanism to measure that. So in my knowledge, what ASDA and Sainsbury used to do, 2 audits a month. There is a score. Then customer compliance. So this is, it was done by a third party. It was a part of the cost at that time because I don't know how they were implementing it, but I have visibility to the end process they were doing it. This is what I pitched. While I said Accenture did not go with it, finally the contract was as simple as input cost based, but that's the easy way to measure. But I can tell you at the same time, one small site, I think the facility is still there, ONGC Officers Guest House. If you know, in Bandra, the new flyover kind of thing, while you drive, you can see that. It's one of the best maintained guest houses. Not much. I think there are about 18, 20 rooms. It is managed by outsourced, not so big name kind of thing. But the man in charge of that facility, when I pitched to them, he said, I'm more than happy to do it. Can you support? And they asked us to establish the SLA kind of thing. We worked with them. That time we did it. I can tell you from 2010 till almost 2014, 15, it was there. Till the time I was a part of diversity Indian operations. Then I was out. Then I lost touch with that. And that's an area they did it. Every month, diversity has to go and do an audit, a surprise audit. And again, when they took the guest satisfaction rating there. So that also we defined. And on the basis of guest satisfaction rating and the audit result, the vendor also has the FM company. There was an agency who was doing FM as well as the catering service because everything was built into that. So a small site has implemented it successfully. I've seen it more than 4 or 5 years. So to put back to you to your question and to answer your question, we can do it. But what we need is we need to work with trust. The contract giver and the contract taker both has to trust that the intention is to make things easier, not to police and catch you on the wrong foot. I think that trust is missing big time. No offense to anybody. Please don't take me otherwise. This is my personal observation from a 2 meter away distance when I watch this.
There is a point here. When you say trust is built when you have a very clear SLA structure. And that's one of the biggest challenges from a service provider end.
Mona, if I can take this, I can add to this.
Yes, please.
So Anil, you mentioned that this engaging conversation is going on for 16 odd years. And we haven't yet reached a conclusion. It's primarily because of 2 reasons. One, I believe is it's a marriage of convenience. One, from a cost perspective, we are still on a minimum wages based structuring for soft services or housekeeping. That's where the first challenge starts. Second is that as Mona, you rightly said, the client does not lose control, right? Third is that it's like Mr. Jaju said, that as a vendor, it's the safest bet. We are protecting our interest at all times. So it's a marriage of convenience. We do not really see a need for a change. If we really see the need for a change, this industry and the group that we are here, we are good enough to make that change. But the fact is, do we really need it? Or do we really want it genuinely? So that's where the challenge is.
Saji, I'm contradicting to you, Mona. The industry is very much want to go for it because it simplifies their work. So if you look at as an industry and organization, they want to have this cost plus, not the cost plus, out plus base. The biggest challenge I am saying the one measurable, something is clean in your eye is not acceptable to something else. I'll give a classical example. I have a store managers, they says my store is clean. When my audit team goes that, they says there is, if you look at, they get a minus point around nearly up to they 70% clean. which is 100%, somebody is the 70%. That the margin of 30%, that's the kills the whole things. And that's where Mona said that trust, which brings them to come. Very much the custom as a.
That is because the criteria is not established. That's why it's very subjective. In the contract, if you establish this is what we define as clean. I'll tell you, for example, simple example, a dustbin level. This I'm saying from the international document. A dustbin which is full more than 2/3 is considered as full. Because the logic here, if it is 2/3 open, I'm saying the olden days without the lid kind of, you put something and if you pop it out, and chances of it popping out is there. And 9 out of 10 people will not bend and take it and put it back. So it is never supposed to be anything more than 2/3 full. Just an example, this is from Sainsbury or established parameters. So I'm just giving you an example. Almost everything, I won't say everything, almost everything can be, you can make it certain criteria, discuss, align. So it's debatable from one property to other property, the definition might change, but within a given property, a vendor and the recipient, if they agree, it's quite measurable.
Point taken.
I'll just add one thing on that. How do we measure, like for cleaning services? We have so many sensors to measure all the downtime, uptime, how much is the uptime for all the engineering devices. There are still easier, and for output, there is a lot of go from client side. But for soft services also, like I am sharing an example, we do technical deep cleaning for data centers. Just imagine there are devices, particle counters, though they are little costly, but those particle counters will see how much micron of my dust is there in the data center. If we can measure that, why can't we measure in the offices with those devices? But there is an investment required. So there has to be a 3 to 5 years kind of contracts, not annual renewal contracts typically, which are traditionally happening. And you see large companies we are present in say 15 states, the whole minimum wage revisions every 6 months, June, say Jan, July, or April, October, or some Kerala every month. So every month there is some minimum wage revision happening, and both the buyer and seller are busy in again having a revised PO every 3 months, you know. So why don't we just come out of this? We have to find those innovations, and those devices are there in this digitization can be done to measure even the cleaning services related KPIs. And once the trust factor is there after defining those KPIs, definitely it is measurable, and the life will become simpler on both the sides, because both the teams are actually struggling this month on month, quarter on quarter, only doing these calculations, and again somebody verifying those calculations. According to me, I think that can be actually done away, but a lot of mindset change is needed. It will take some time, I believe.
Yeah, and then they want to add a point on it. SLA based.
I remember working with Mr. Saji when we talk about coming up and mapping up the parameters. Okay, the innovation which he introduced was the NFC codes. Okay, in major of the washrooms, how many times a washroom should be clean in a day? 4 times, 6 times, 8 times? No, it is based on the footfall, right? Now, both the parties, that is the vendor and the service and the client, they both have to come down to a particular conclusion that this is a doable subject. Now, what is a doable subject? Is it possible to clean that particular washroom 8 times in a day? Yes, it is possible. अब उसको किस तरीके से हम मैकेनाइज्ड एलिमेंट को हम मेजर करेंगे वो अलग बात है, लेकिन अगर ये दो दिमाग उधर का और इधर का, if they come on the same page and we quantify, and then it will be helping both the parties to measure where they are standing. So end of the day, end of the month, when we used to quantify on the NFC codes, we used to understand that we have achieved 80%, 90%, 95%. So whatever was beyond 95% was the best. 100% नहीं possible होगा, 95% के ऊपर कर लिया तो yes, you have qualified for this X score. 90% के ऊपर 90% के आप अंदर चले गए तो आप SLA को attract करते हो. So this will only happen when two brains come together rather than deducting against with the weapon of SLA. If we come together with an innovative idea, okay, boss, I am here to help you, you are here to help me. So ultimately the infrastructure which is created should be longing for minimum 100 years if we maintain it in the right and proper manner. So when we talk about the SLA, it has to be a dual course of action. It cannot be one-sided. This is how the parameters has to happen. So if we both sit together and quantify and measure it with the proper parameter, I'm sure it is a doable situation where, you know, if the SLAs will also be minimized and the outcome will be measured, as rightly said.
Hold that thought, Rahul. Let's have Anand to say, if you're talking about a doable model of SLA, how would you define that?
Yeah, so I agree with you. You know, this whole discussion which has been happening around the group, I think the core issue which is there is that when a service provider and a client, they sit together across the table, during those discussions, the parameters need to be established on what has to be achieved and what is doable. Once that parameter is established, and then I think the clients as well as the service providers will be in a position to go for a output-based model. Till the time it is a gray area where the parameters are not well established, the client can take the advantage of doing a deduction or not agreeing to the cleanliness standard. And at the same time, even the service provider will take advantage of the same parameters and say, I did give the service, but you know, you counted it wrong. So that's the dilemma we are in. The same discussion, if you were having 15 years ago, this topic of SLA or you know, parameters being established wouldn't even have been discussed about. So that change has happened in 15 years, which means we are moving in the right direction.
Let's listen to him saying from the operations end.
So one more thing which I would like to add in this as a just you know, half a minute.
Yeah.
Is that today there are technology available, not only sensors and all, even your video cameras have AI capabilities built in. You don't even need to scan a NFC code or a QR code or, you know, put in attendance. That camera AI itself can tell how many times the machine has gone, what distance it has gone, how many times the janitor has come to the room and cleaned it, how many times the occupant has come. And so alert should go to the, you know, the service department to come and clean. Also, when the density is less, which area not to be cleaned. So these technologies are available. Service providers are shying away from it a bit because 3 to 5 year contract period is required to put in that investment, get the money back and show some value to the client. So I think these discussions will keep on continuing.
Hold on to that.
I just wanted to add to his thing.
Yes.
Fine, you have measurable equipment. Kitna bar gaya. It again goes into the cost perspective ball game. I'm not interested. I am interested in output. Why should I bother about how many times you cleaned it, how many times you got it, how many people you got? I'm not want to go there. I want to say this floor is clean, it's clean, not clean, not clean. I'm specific about this. I don't want to see it. When I'm visited, it's supposed to be clean. That's the way my perspective or the outcome is there.
Taken,
so
point
you
taken.
are quantifying again, you are 8 times gone it, you are 10 times gone. Why should I have? As a client, I'm least bother about it. When I visit it, is clean or not? This table is clean. No, it has a dust.
He's a good client. He's a good client.
Yeah, for me, that's my output.
No, so you know, to add to that, right? You're spot on that should be the output. Where the scoring comes in is maybe your store manager should have the same KPI as your vendor. So the store manager is scoring the vendor every month. And then when the audit happens and the store manager has given the vendor.
I'm giving a perspective. What is my auditable, the person which is me as a person, it's my person only, store manager. He's not these people. He's actually representing me. one which is I'm giving a perspective of a person which is the actually day-to-day moving it. He says he's a clean, but my team which goes for a check it, he thinks it's not clean as a subject matter expert. So that's the feature I am giving it at quantifying the qualitative scenario, something which is store manager is approving to my service providers is done a cleaning, but my qualitative SME who is a subject matter for him, it is not a clean. So I'm giving a perspective of vision of people looking at the things. So there is, as it is both of my people, but ultimately that's something which is also one of the area which I'm giving a perspective of a person. Today something is clean in my area, but my CEO will say, no, it is not. That is where I wanted to demonstrate something as an outcome model for me. It should be simple. I know, Mona, I'm between their dinner, so we'll push it to them.
I think Deepak would like to add on this. No, okay. Now I will come.
Sorry,
to
just the last thing. So just on that front, right? What also comes is where we define what is a good score. We have clients where when we've scored 72% on their SLA, they have told us that in the last 5 years, no one has crossed 60. So 72 might sound low, but maybe that's a very good score. And we have clients where we've scored 95% and they've said 99 is the benchmark. And that's how our scoring is. So defining that, I guess it just comes back to defining what we want.
There is the defining is concerned, which as outcome, as what I see, I am very clear as a client. I want clean 24/7. Whenever I walk in, anybody goes it. It's supposed to be, I'm giving an X cost to you. Take it. Whatever number of people, machinery, everything, child, cycles, everything, it's your baby. Because I'm least bothered about what you do and how you do it. When
That's
I
the
come,
best way to look at it.
Yeah, that's the way I'm as a client look at. When I visit it, it should be clean, done. But the clean concept has to be defined.
Makran, agreed that, customers, if they are able to understand this and stop doing micromanagement, how many people came in, how many people signed, and, how much chemicals they used, how much times the equipment ran in that place. If that micromanagement is minused, then yes, an outcome-based model definitely works. Please.
I just have one example to give, right?
Yes.
We all travel. I mean, we go to so many different international airports. You go to a Singapore airport, you go to a Dubai airport, right? Before you come out, you clearly have one of the 5 options to choose from, right? As a customer, if 95% of the time you're 4 and 5, you're there. I mean, the moment you talk about output based, it is the customer who's got to say that okay, the toilet, the loo was clean, right? And something of that kind is something that you see very, very clearly at the airports, right? So if there's a way that a customer can come in and weigh that in, I mean, what does a common customer know what to look at? I mean, he has his own sense, right? Eventually, you're doing it for him.
Right.
If he's going out satisfied, it's there.
This is something new which even I read about is, you have the hotels which, have the ratings, you have the customer satisfaction, customer experience, etc. And they put rates on this. This is coming handy even in, when you talk about cleaning or when you're not quality, when you want to measure quality, it's the customer's experience on how he felt in a day or in a month, which is adding to your rates of, putting on your outcome-based model. So I'm not going to take more time. Yes, but I wanted to ask one question to everybody. Would you prefer an outcome or a cost plus? How many for cost plus? 1 for cost plus.
Cost plus here.
2. Who is for cost plus model? Acha, he's asking a question. Okay. Good.
I'm not asking a question. Okay. Yes. There are a few people who know that I was a double-digit employee in CBR when they started.
Can
way
you hold
back
the mic closer?
way back in 2000.
Yes.
I would say that there is no discussion about cost plus is going to stay or output is going to stay. It all depends on a customer, what exactly he wants. Now you have to identify basic concept. Okay. You can't expect an a la carte service when you're going for a buffet. Your buffet is your output based, right? And your a la carte is your cost plus. If you don't like the fish, he'll change the dish and get it back to you. But then you pay for it. Similarly, what is the problem which I see when I sit, vendors come to they want my logo to be sold and they sell me a platinum service as a bronze cost. I would never agree to that. So most of the time, both the parties, there have been a lot of discussions. You set the expectations right. In the zeal of getting the contract, somebody gives undercoats. And at some point in time, there is no charity. There are cutting corners. That is when the service provider also earns a bad name. And you understand the client who is signing the contract, he also earns a bad name to his internal customer. So when you're saying something, or when you're selling something, or you're buying something, the baseline has to be set properly. Very, very, very clear. Like you travel to an airline, what you get in a full service airline is at a cost. And what you get into a budget airline is a different thing. He will give you a glass of water. The full service will give you a bottle of water. Right? So what Makaran said, and I know where he comes from, he'll see the washroom is clean. But if somebody has used it 5 minutes ago and he doesn't know how to use the jet spray, how is the service provider responsible for it? And if the MD walks into that closet, then who gets pulled up? The property manager gets pulled up. Okay, he has to go through a class and education of how the toilets have to be cleaned. But who's going to tell the other board member who didn't know how to use the jet spray? So I think so. There is a market for both. Okay, as you go to a 5-star and a 3-star or a budget hotel or a budget airline, there's market for both. There's no discussion about what you want. It is about whether you want to give a solitaire diamond or a diamond crusted ring. You decide what you want to give or what you want to buy.
What's your good name?
Uday Bhatte.
Uday, I definitely agree you're hungry. So finally, I would say yes, both the models have to work hand in hand in many places. In some places, you can really make a success with proper SLAs. But overall, the foundation for everything is to have an awareness. Unless you educate your client of what he needs or what that property needs, no model or no service model is going to work. So possibly we all need to know how to convince or how to educate the client before we decide what is the service model. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for a lovely conversation, and thank you, audience. Thank you.
Hello, is there anyone wanting to hear me? That's me.
Yeah, Mangesh, please.
I think the most important thing is each one should clean his own area. And if you cannot learn this, then learn it. Go to Japan and see how they clean the stadiums. That's the way.
Yeah, this is, first of all, thank you so much for being here, and a quick apology for the noise next door. And that's the thing, right? We negotiated a 200 headcount here, did not negotiate peace of mind, the SLA part of it. So SLA is always better.
All right. So now that was some discussion. Thank you all the panel members and Ms. Mona for making this one of the key highlights of the event. I would like to request Mr. Sanjay Shedge, Executive Director, Technical Customer Services and COE Emerging Markets, to please come up on stage and felicitate our panel members and our moderator.
Ashish, one question. You spoke about on-demand facility management, which is going to come soon. What will be the service model for that?
So it's a combination of everything. I mean, when you look at on-demand, it's services which typically clients don't outsource today. You're bringing additional services into the fore. So services which are typically not today offered by the FM, you're saying let's enlarge the scope of services. And obviously a lot of it is linked to occupancy, for example. So you're saying if my office occupancy is 30%, here's what I need. If my office occupancy is 50%, here's what I need. So it's a combination of adding more services. It's a combination of how you scale up, scale down quickly, which gives obviously more efficiency and productivity for our clients. So it's a combination of multiple things.
How are you going to sign the contract with your customer?
So similar to what the fixed price model is, you create those intervals, you define what the intervals are. So you've got checkpoints, what happens when. So you've got a very, very clear milestone that says, this is what the milestone is, this is how you measure what you need to scale up, scale down, what you need to add, what you need to subtract. So it's something which is actually very, very evolved in the Western market, especially after COVID. And it's something which is very, very easily adaptable. Coming back to the whole debate, maybe taking a couple of steps back, it goes again, it boils down to one word, which is trust. As long as clients don't trust the service partner, this debate will continue till the time our kids come home.
True, true, very true. Thank you so much.
As they say, every ending has a new beginning. We have finally arrived to the final segment of the evening. And before leaving the stage, I would like to thank all of you for being such a great audience. It was a pleasure hosting you all. I would request Ms. Radhika Anand to please come on stage and thank the audience for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Firstly, a big thank you to our panelists and our audience for a wonderfully engaging conversation today around inclusive innovation and also the cost plus versus outcome model. I think I personally enjoyed the debate around that. Another special thank you to our esteemed keynote speaker, Mr. Ashish Poddar, for really your take around the future forward view on the FM industry and how it can actually play a very important role in redesigning the end user or in fact the employee experience. I personally had a lot of takes that I would like to take it forward with, our teams around diversity. Another special thank you to Ms. Kumud and Ms. Mohana for wonderfully moderating the sessions. Thank you so much for being with us. And a special thank you to BW Hotelier, which has been our media partner, our hospitality partner, Lalit Hotels, and also last but not least, the stellar team from Diversity, which is put behind this brilliant show yet again. So special thank you to each one of you for making here today. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening with us. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Kindly proceed for dinner and drinks. Thank you so much.